Hey, welcome back for hour 2 of Weekend Appointment, 540-0580. If you have a legal question, call in. Of course, in the meantime, if you can't get hold of us this weekend, you need us during the week, or you just want to check out our law office, go to romingerlaw.com, R-O-M-I-N-G-E-R, law, L-A-W.com. And somebody just recently told me that I need to always give the phone number if I'm going to give the website. So if you're not web-enabled, the phone number is 241 in the 717 area code, 241-6070, just in case you're not web-enabled. But, of course, if you are web-enabled, romingerlaw.com has some great resources on it. And, of course, the show website, weekendappointment.com, also does as well. Steve, you're on the air.
Equitable distribution, increase in the value, personal property, meaning the house. Obviously, property values haven't increased much, but may I assume that the increase in the value also includes the pay down in the mortgage during that period of time?
Well, let me back up here a second. When we look at the value in the house, we're talking about a house that was brought to the marriage?
Right.
Okay. And so the increase in value is all we look at, but to the extent that the marriage created equity through pay down on the mortgage, we would look at that as well. So if I brought a house to a marriage that was worth $200,000, I owed $100,000 on it, and when we got divorced, it was worth $300,000 and only $50,000 was owed, there'd be an argument that the equity that I brought to was $100,000, and so anything above that would belong to the marriage. Does that make sense?
Right. Right. So the house was owned for a year before I moved in, and then there was 5 years of pay down.
Mm-hmm.
Not much of an increase, but there was 5 years of pay down, doubling down on the actual mortgage, meaning we were paying double the amount. So really, the bulk of the increase is going to be in the ultimate cost, which is if the house isn't going to be sold, but if we mock sold it, of course, the increase in the increase in the value is going to be all. If we sold it, then
right.
It's
And then, of course, we look at the cost of the transaction if you sold it, too, because potentially we can factor that in as to what you guys would actually net. But, yeah, it would seem that increase in value, if any, is marital, and it would seem that the pay down on the mortgage, which created equity in the house, is marital.
Now, is there a rule to that, or is it up for grabs?
Up for grabs.
Really?
And what I mean by that is the master's free, or the court, however you want to say it, is free in crafting an equitable distribution to do whatever they want with various assets, as long as the overall framework is, quote, equitable. There's no mathematical formulas employed per se. That makes sense?
Yeah, so you just have to, fight for that, I guess, that
although
theory?
You have to fight for that theory, but I would just tell you that most courts are going to recognize it. And they can't just discount it. In other words, they're going to have to acknowledge that there's at least that much in the marital pot, okay? How they choose to divvy up the marital pot is a separate question.
Right, because of pensions, 401ks that were previously non-marital assets, but during the marriage you consolidated them just for consolidation purposes, like you took a pension and an old IRA and you consolidated them into one master IRA just for convenience purposes. Now, the amounts that were rolled in can't be included as an increase in value because they were premarital as long as there's evidence or proof of that, correct?
Right. They're probably going to be treated as non-marital property belonging to that individual.
Right, so you can peel out, old prior to the marriage, there might have been some rollovers, but during the marriage they were consolidated into one IRA, if you will.
And here's the argument the other side's going to make, is that shows your intent to donate that non-marital asset to the marriage. So there's a little wiggle room there. But I think, again, you have a strong argument that they have a non-marital nature.
Right.
Just as the portions of the pension that were accrued prior, if you have, for instance, a defined benefit pension plan, the portions that were accrued prior to the marriage don't become marital even though you continue to work and contribute.
Right. So when an attorney tries to pull these types of, I call them stunts, saying that, the house only appreciated whatever the appraisal might have been without the pay down, they're just playing games.
Well, or they're making arguments, and let's put it to you this way: if I'm your attorney, I'm going to want to tip everything in your favor, right?
Yep.
And the other attorney is going to say, hey, well, let's assume everything comes out in the other side's favor. But I can tell you, a lot of divorces I'm involved in where we have competent counsel on the other side, and I'm sure the other counsel doesn't think I'm competent, but I usually do think the other side is. What we do is we figure out values, and then we kind of know how these things usually break down, and we try to come to something fair and close to the middle. And so, for instance, if I were your attorney, I would expect the other attorney to go, okay, well, I see your point. There's potentially a pay down here of some amount of equity increased by what was paid in on the mortgage. So if we can agree on a number, we'll consider that a marital asset.
Right. Okay, so those are the arguments you have to make in front of the master, I guess, is the point.
Yeah, or ahead of time too with the other side. I mean, a lot of times you can.
The other side is just belligerent. I mean, and that's where I lose a lot of respect for attorneys in general, because they, especially if somebody's pro se, they just they think you're stupid and you're not, unfortunately. Or fortunately,
no, you're not. You're not stupid if you're pro se. The danger about being pro se, and I always remember this, is you're going to be held theoretically to the same standard as a lawyer. And there's a lot of lawyers who can't lay out a good case in court. So you have to remember that you're going to be deemed to know all this stuff and all the doctrines. And quite frankly, the other thing is, there's an old joke where the judge says, "Well, do you have any law on that?" Or he looks, he says, "You have a case." And the joke is you're supposed to say, look at him and go, well, I don't know. You're the judge. Don't you know the law? And it's a joke because the answer is the judge does know a lot of law, but most of us don't know any given law in any given moment, particularly as it applies to any particular situation. So we do a lot of research, and so judges depend on the lawyers to come forward with cases and arguments that help them decide the case. And so contrary to popular opinion, the court isn't necessarily is expecting the attorneys, if you have two ethical, competent attorneys, okay, the court expects them to come forward with positive and adverse authority. I mean, I've been in court before where I have to say, well, Judge, I really want to argue this, but I did find a case that says I lose, but let me try to distinguish it. Other times I'm in court and I'm like, Judge, I'm telling you, heck, at my jury trial yesterday, I got the judge to read a supplemental instruction to the jury where he basically said, well, Mr. Rominger was right, and when I said this, I didn't really mean to imply he wasn't, because I showed him what I was looking at and why. And my point is that courts are not going to know everything all the time. So when you represent yourself, the one disadvantage you give yourself is it's hard for you to know which, to get all the cases together and do all this. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just that a lot of times I think pro ses don't understand that part of their job is to make sure the court knows why they're asking for what they're asking, because the judge, quite frankly, may not know at that given moment. He might not have read that case. He may have just had a case right on point and know it off the top of his head, but you can't depend on that.
Right.
All right?
Thank you very much.
All right, brother, take care. I got to go to break. 540-0580. See you guys after the break. Hey, welcome back, 540-0580. What can I say? The world is a cruel, cruel place. That's why we need lawyers. Bruce, you're on the air.
Hi. Well, that's a very interesting statement you just made. That kind of caught me by surprise, but that's not why I called. I have to disagree with you, but...
What disagree with what?
That the world is a cruel place.
Oh, okay.
It is what it is,
I know, but trust me, it's cruel.
Okay, it depends on your attitude, But anyhow,
well, I lost a trial yesterday. I'm very angry.
I'll put it to you this way: suffering sometimes is not a choice, but bad luck is not a choice, but suffering is a choice.
All right, well, I appreciate that.
Anyhow, that's not why I called. What I called was there was a lady on 2 calls ago, and I was a business owner for 25 years, and I hear where she's coming from. But I want to tell her, and the other listeners, for instance, I hired somebody once who was in jail for 4 years, but he told me up front, okay? So that's a good thing. I did not red flag him just because he was in jail for 4 years. He deserves to work just like anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
and was a good worker. Okay? Now, I'll tell you where I did red flag people. When they would have 2 jobs in a year and then in between go on unemployment for a couple of months and keep on doing that. That would cause me to red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Not just because somebody did a crime and came right out and said, look, I did a crime, I paid the time, and you know what? That's over and done with. Cool. It's not red flag because he was straightforward and honest. So that lady is thinking negative it could be nothing to do with what she's driven to think that people don't just necessarily look at a crime. They look at honesty, trustworthiness. You know, people that do a crime doesn't mean they can never work again. You know, some of the criminals that come out are reformed, and they are excellent employees. So that's all I had to say.
No, I appreciate that. And, you know, the short answer is I kind of agree with you on the what do I want to say, like the lazy factor that you see by somebody, and I'm not saying somebody's lazy just because they're on unemployment for a while, but somebody who's chronically using unemployment. You know, I hired a lawyer in my office who, when I looked at his resume and I saw what kind of work he did while he was in college and what kind of work he did when he was in law school, both of which were, you know, kind of like hard labor, I was like, you know what, I'm going to hire this guy over everybody else because I can tell he's a worker. And,
there you go.
And that's exactly the thought pattern.
So,
and he is, by the way. I was right.
Yeah, I mean, so she's just being really narrow-minded and thinking, well, oh, geez, red flag because why she even went there is ridiculous. Because if she knows he didn't do a crime and he knows he didn't do a crime, it's obviously a different reason. You know, it's not like you need to go check it out. I mean, if you know you didn't do a crime, why do you even need to call the state police?
Well, I guess the only question on that one would be, and it's possible because of the identity theft. We have had a few rare instances. In fact, going all the way back to law school, we had a guy that the FBI came up and talked to because somebody had taken his identity and used it for something, and I remember him being very upset about it. So it's possible, although very rare.
In other words, more likely someone like job hopping and unemployment's in between. That's much more likely.
Right, or forgot to tell mom something.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Mom, I guess I should come clean. I was in prison once, but it was only for a few days, so you didn't know about it. I just told you I was with a friend.
Well, I'm sure you had a good time. You learned a few things, and probably was a good experience overall when you look back upon it.
All right, Bruce, take care.
Hey, take care of yourself. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Dale, you're on the air. Dale.
Oh, hi, Carl.
How are you?
All right, how are you?
Good. What's going on?
I got a 3-part question for you, and I'm trying to keep it as general as possible.
Okay.
1, what constitutes harassment? 2, is it a crime? And 3, how do courts look at it in a divorce hearing?
Okay, first of all, harassment can be unwanted touching or any repetitive or annoying behavior that serves no legitimate purpose. So, for instance, throwing trash in your neighbor's yard could be disorderly conduct, but could also be a form of harassment. Berating somebody, But here's the dealio: when you're in the marital realm, where it gets a little wishy-washy, because it becomes he said, she said, etc. So, but courts do handle it, and we'll look at it. It's just tough to get good proof of it because usually you're going to say, I was harassed and harangued, and here's how it happened. The other side's going to say, no, he harassed and harangued me. And at a certain point, the judge is going to throw his hands up in the air and say, yuck, I don't really want to get involved in this because best I can tell, both sides are just miserable. That's usually why in the divorce realm we try to get people to move out. But, of course, as you know, sometimes there's difficulties in creating two marital estates.
Okay.
Other times, two people can live together and get along well enough that there aren't any of these problems, even though they're no longer in a romantic situation. So it just depends on the couple and how they want to disentangle it.
Okay, thanks, Carl. That kind of answers some of what I wanted.
All right, Dale, take care.
Thanks. You too.
540-0580. Patty, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hello, Patty.
Hi. My question to you is, my neighbor has a walkway that has been lifted up from a tree.
Yes.
And what I'm concerned about is he's not getting that repaired. If somebody trips and really injures themselves, they could trip partly on our property. How responsible would we be to that person?
Is the tree lifting up the sidewalk in front of your property?
No, it's next to our property, but if they trip, they would be partly on our property.
Yeah. Well, let me explain it this way. Where I fall probably doesn't control who's negligent, okay?
Okay.
Now, if you put some, I don't know, nails or something out on the sidewalk in that area or somehow create it so it's worse when I fall there, maybe I can suck you in. I don't think that's a huge issue, but it might be appropriate to, have you talked to the neighbor about fixing that?
A couple years ago, but I don't think he is financially capable of repairing it.
The other place to go is to go to the borough or the township and say, hey, this really needs fixed.
Okay.
They can come in and say to him, fix it, or we'll fix it, and then it'll become a municipal lien.
Correct. Okay.
All right?
Oh, that's a very good idea.
Well, I get one a day, so there you go. You got it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Patty, take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
540-0580. Lisa, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hello, Lisa. How are you?
Oh, hi. I'm fine. Thank you.
What's cooking?
Well, this is what's cooking. I have a friend who is in a situation where her husband left her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going crazy, thinking she has to sell her house because they still owe money on it. But must she do that? And or does she have a right to be able to stay in the home, in the family home, where they do still have a child?
Well, I mean, ultimately, the house is going to have to get divvied up one way or the other in the marriage. And if either side can't afford to take it over by themselves or with help from the other as whatever works out, then ultimately it does have to be sold. A real smart attorney one time showed me, and I always appreciate this example. He said, the way I show my clients, and he draws a circle on a piece of paper, is that's the marriage. And then he draws a line down the middle and goes, so even if you split it down the middle, notice the circle doesn't get any bigger. And if you basically saying, a divorce does not manufacture additional resources or ability to pay. So if it takes both of you to maintain the marital home, it will probably not be maintained when there's only one of you.
If the person is capable of maintaining it, is there an option of the buyout?
Yeah. In fact, you can. Now, sometimes that has to do with their financing and their ability and access to funds and all this. But sure, and in fact, I can imagine that a lot of courts would take the pitch. Hey, Judge, I know we wanted to. We got to buy Dad out of this, and we're going to do that. But here's the dealio: we've got enough money to do it, and this is where the kids are going to want to stay. And a lot of courts would look at the father and say, hey, well, if the kids are going to stay there, could stay there, why are you opposed to it? And even if you're opposed to it, I'm probably going to order it, so let's just work it out.
Okay, so the judge could be on the mother's side of wanting to stay in the home for the reason of the child. Right,
but we also have the custody court overlay as well. And I mean, it depends what Dad's doing and his plan, and is Mom really fit or not fit, and all those other issues. So, I mean, there is a complex interaction, but my inclination would be usually you get to. Now, I've had other times where think of a case where a fellow wanted to keep the house, and the court forced a sale of it, even though I don't think they needed to.
Okay.
All right.
All right, I'll pass that along. Thank you.
All right, Lisa, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Bye.
Bye. 540-0580. Keep calling. We're going to be live on the air for another half hour. This is your chance to get your legal questions answered for free. And, of course, if you do have a legal problem or situation and you can hear this broadcast, just go to RomlingerLaw.com or call us at 717-241-6070, and we'll be happy to get you in. We do have offices in Lancaster, Harrisburg, Carlisle, Chambersburg. We also have York, Hanover, Hr2, Hershey. I mean, those are our field offices, so you can't get appointments in those every day. But nonetheless, we can come to see you and meet with you. And, of course, don't forget about the free will program on weekendappointment.com. Kathy, you're on the air.
York, Hanover.
Kathy.
Hello?
Hello. Turn your radio down, Kathy.
Oh.
I can hear myself in the background. We're going to get a feedback loop going here. All right, Kathy, you there? Kathy.
Yes.
Okay, what's going on?
Now, I was in a contest.
Okay.
And they say now that I have won certain amounts of money.
Is this something you got in the mail?
Yeah, I think I first got it in the mail.
Do you remember entering the contest?
Yeah, it was back here, early part of the summer. Can you hear me
Yep,
good?
I can hear you good.
Earlier part of the summer. Now, they have been sending me, they say I was entered all over the world. So, anyway, I got a...
And now they want you to give them some banking information or some other personal information to help confirm the prize, right?
Yeah, yes.
This is a common, probably what you're probably being victimized by what's called the international lottery, or it's a common scam where they'll send you a letter and claim you won a prize and that you've been entered and that they need more information. But what they're really trying to do is get you to send them money or give you access to your accounts.
Yeah, now
take that paperwork to a lawyer, or take that paperwork to the district attorney's office or a police officer and have them look at it, because I believe that is a scam. And I don't think you want any money. And more importantly, if you follow through with what they're telling you, you're going to lose money. Okay, Kathy? All right, you going to do what I tell you to do?
Yes.
All right.
Take the letter.
Take the letter to a police officer or a lawyer, let them look it over and tell you what's going on, but it sounds like a scam.
And they say I had won about $2 million.
Yeah, it's a scam of some sort. But if it isn't a scam, then, we'll help you get your $2 million, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it's a scam. All right, I got to go to break. You take care, and you know what you need to do. Don't give them any information. They're just going to steal from you.
Okay.
All right? Take care.
Okay, thank you.
Whew. All right, see you after the break. Hey, welcome back, 540-0580. I have a legal problem I want to send out there for you guys to solve for me. I have a client who has a vehicle they want to title in Pennsylvania that they built from old parts which don't have VINs on them. And according to my brother, the scrap metal dealer, that's a problem because you have to have a title for the VIN-specific portions of the vehicle. So has anybody out there ever been able to title a vehicle you built from old parts? And if so, how did you do it? I'd like to find the answer. So if you do, just shoot me an email or call in here to the show, 540-0580. Steve, you're on the air.
Hi, Carl.
Hey, what's going on?
I have a question about a right-of-way. I purchased a property about a year ago, and the previous owner must have built slightly onto the other adjoining lots, and they worked out a deal where they gave him an easement in exchange for a right-of-way across a portion of his property.
Okay.
And I knew all that going in. But the lot next to me where this easement and came up for sale, and I purchased the lot. So I no longer have to worry about somebody using the right-of-way so long as I own it.
Mm-hmm.
But my question is if I wanted to have the right-of-way removed now, since I own both properties, would I be able to?
If the two properties were the only two properties involved in the original transaction, and you now have unity of title in the two properties, the answer is yes, you could. You have that power.
There is no other person that gets the right-of-way, first of all.
Well, another property, right? Just those two properties.
No, just that one property has the access across mine. Nobody else does.
Right.
What does unity of title mean? That it's in exactly the same name, both properties?
Right. That you own both of them now in fee simple.
Yes, that's correct.
And so you can now. So this is it's just sort of like this. Let's say I have 100 acres and I divide it into 25-acre lots, and I put some deed restrictions in.
Mm-hmm.
The deed restrictions can only be undone by agreement of all the subservient estates.
Okay.
So I either have to buy up all that property or get everybody to agree to make the change on all 20 lots. Well, here you had two lots that interacted with one another, and now you control both, so you should be able to undo it.
Okay. Now, can I join both properties and make them one property in some way?
You could. You would have to go to the township and try to merge the parcels.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'm not sure anybody. Here's my thought. Just short answer is, There's no reason to do that per se because it's probably more valuable as two parcels than it is as one.
Right.
In case you ever want to sell it or disown yourself of it. But if you ever did want to do something where you needed to create one parcel for setback purposes, et cetera, that would be the time to do it.
Yeah, that was my only concern is if I want to put up like a garage or something, I have to deal with all the setback lines between the properties. But I agree that I'm not sure I want to do that. I'm just wondering if it's possible.
It's possible, and then an easier way is just go to your zoning people and try to get a variance based on hardship for a setback provision.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, brother. Take care.
All right. Bye.
540-0580. Adam, can you help me with my question about car titles?
Yeah.
Okay, what do we do?
Yeah, I'm an auto enthusiast, and I've heard of guys who use title agencies to actually purchase a title from a car that may be long gone, but they still have the title available and the title's good, and you assign that title's VIN number to the chassis you're building.
Okay.
You can also purchase the VIN plate sometimes for cars, too. Guys will have those for sale, like in old auto restorer magazines and such, depending on the make and model you're looking to put back together. But it is possible, so.
Gotcha. And that's and when I talked to my brother about it, he said, "Oh, I've got a chassis from something where I would love to sell it, but he's like, I don't have a VIN for it, so I just have to scrap it because it was dug out of a pile somewhere and it doesn't have a VIN."
No, there's ways around that. There's auto restorers who need to restore a car and they have title problems, but if you talk to the right people who deal with that sort of thing, you can usually find a solution to that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So basically what you're saying is if you can find a component that has a VIN, you can make that the VIN for the whole thing.
Yeah, and usually you're going to need a good title to go with it.
Right.
Usually they go hand in hand. Sometimes guys will sell just a dashboard with a VIN plate on it and a title to go along with it, and then you use that for maybe a rolled car or a wrecked car.
Okay.
And you can rebuild it, or based on like a shell, like you said, where you pulled it out of a shed somewhere. Maybe the title had been lost and the VIN numbers, the pieces with the VIN numbers are missing, and you want to still rebuild the car. It is possible. Yeah, there's guys who do that.
And because the problem is, these days anything that's relatively new has a VIN in 800 locations. But the older cars, they used to literally put it in like 3 spots. Yeah,
the older models had them maybe on the door jamb. I think they mandated it to be on the dashboard in like 68 or 69, somewhere in there. So it depends on what kind of a car it is and what's left of it. So.
All right, Adam, I'll pass all this along.
Okay, sure.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
There we go. Get our question. I'll start out doing all my legal research on the air here. 540-0580. Lloyd, you're on the air. Hey, Lloyd.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Hey, I got a question. I own this is what the indenture, or I guess this is the deed. It says that I have a 1/2 interest in a certain piece or parcel or tract of land situated in Mill Creek Township in Clarion County, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
What are my rights or what am I dealing with the guy that owns the other half?
Well, the two of you own the whole, okay?
Yes.
And so each one of you has the right to use the land as you see fit. If one of you makes profits off the land, you have to share those. If one of you makes there's expenses or taxes on the land, you guys are write a contribution on those. And if you guys can't get along, you have the right to force a sale of the property or its actual physical division into 2 parcels.
Okay. Now, let's say there's trees on there.
Uh-huh.
And let's say there's $50,000 worth of trees.
Then you guys are in the timber business together.
Okay. Now, what I've done is I called him on the phone, and I told him this, and he said, well, I'll tell you what. If a tree is 18 inches in diameter or better, we can cut those. Anything less than 18 inches, we're not going to cut.
Okay.
Now, I have to go with that?
If you guys are in a good old-fashioned fight here. So the short answer is you don't have to go with that, but I guess he could go. He can go in there and tell the timber guys to get off the land too.
Mm-hmm.
He can tell them they're trespassing.
Okay. So then the only thing left would be to go to court, I guess, and say, okay, then let's either come to an agreement,
right,
on what it's worth.
Correct. You can buy me out, I'll buy you out, whichever way we want to do it, or we can divide it in half. How many acres are we talking about?
97.
Yeah, so it could be easily divided, right?
Yes. Well, I guess so.
Yeah, by a judge. He'll just go take his big sword, just like a baby, just cut it right in half.
Well, the other problem could possibly be is there's probably Marcellus shale on there, and I'm not quite sure. See, I'm 75 years old, and I'm not.
Want to adopt me?
Yeah, well, well, that might be a good question. He's about 20 years younger than I am.
Okay.
He may be trying to wait me out.
Right.
So I guess if I can't get him to come to an agreement on anything, then I guess the next thing to do would be he wants to buy it, but he wants to give me $10,000.
Oh no, that's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
But there are certainly ways you could structure a transaction where you say this is what we'll do. But yeah. Because the Marcellus shale interest, the timber interest, push the price way up.
Mm-hmm. And he doesn't see. I don't think he's interested in that.
Well,
he wants to build a camp on there now. He can build a camp, and I can't stop that.
Well, he can build a camp, but if he improves the real estate, I think it belongs to both of you. Improvements.
Okay.
It sounds like it's time to. It sounds like it's time to figure out a way to resolve this. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've owned this piece of land for about 50 years, and unfortunately, the guy that owned the other half, when he decided to sell, he never even contacted me.
Which is rare that somebody will even buy a half like that of an undivided interest.
The interesting part was he says to me, "I don't understand why anybody would buy a half interest in a piece of land." and at this point, we're still Lloyd and Ron, and I said, "Well, Ron, why did you buy the other half?" I owned this half for 50 years, and there was no comment.
That is pretty funny. Got any deer up there?
Oh, yeah.
I figured.
But he, I think, might be a green guy, and I don't
right.
I don't think he's interested in that stuff. All right, it sounds like I'm probably going to have to get an attorney, I'm guessing.
Lloyd, happy to help you. Let me know.
What about so far away?
Well, it just so happens my brother lives in Meadville, so I'll use and I like the Clarion area, so I use it as an opportunity to visit him.
Really? I grew up in Conneaut Lake.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What's your what's your phone number?
241 241
241
6070.
6070, I'll tell you.
241 6070.
Yeah, this age is getting to be a pain. 241-6070. And you claim that you have an office. I live in York Springs. I'm not too far away from Carlisle. So Carlisle would probably be my best bet.
Yeah, and that's our main office. That's where my deer heads hang.
Okay.
All right, my friend.
You're a deer hunter.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Well, if I can't do anything, I'll give you a call.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
540-0580. See you after the break. Hey, welcome back. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. I just want to remind you or let you know, next week at 1 o'clock, I'm going to have Seth Obitz with Amerigreen on to talk about their Energy Patriots movement and what they're doing to try to keep America 100% independent on energy. So very interesting. They're actually located, I think they're based out of Lancaster County. So I actually got something in the mail from these guys, and I looked at what they were doing, and I said I want to know a little bit more about it, so I invited them on the air, and that's pretty much the skinny. So next week we're going to talk about that and talk about energy independence. To go a little political on you for 1 second here, I did put a Herman Cain video up on my Facebook page. Back in 94, Herman Cain and Bill Clinton went at it during a town hall meeting. And it's about an 8-minute exchange. And if you're trying to figure out, who you like for the Republican nomination, check out Herman Cain. I'm not endorsing him yet. And Shane, you think we can get Herman Cain on the show? Will you work on that? All right, I think you can. See if you can get him on. If we can get Herman Cain on, maybe we'll talk to him directly about this. But he has a great exchange with Bill Clinton Actually, Bill looks really good in the exchange, too, only because it shows he can really think on his feet as well. But I think Herman definitely comes out the winner as he dissembles Bill's thumb scale numbers that he runs on his health care plan. But anyhow, long and short of it is I really think he's somebody you should be taking a strong look at. So I encourage you to just check that video out that I put on my Facebook page. Like I say, we'll figure out who we're going to endorse here. Not that you care who I'm going to endorse, but I'm looking strongly at Herman Cain right now. Dan, you're on the air.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
You need some help get the title and registration for a car you've made from scratch?
Well, that's the problem. The client made a car, but as I understand it, wasn't literally made from scratch. It was made from, old antique parts. Basically, taking old antique car parts and put it together to reconstruct an antique car, but none of them seem to have a VIN on them.
Well, I would say that he's going to go one or two ways, either a reconstructed vehicle, but then he would need a VIN for that. Or the other one would be a homemade vehicle.
Right.
Guys make trailers and cars. Be sort of like a kit car, and you get the form, you fill all that out, and then it has to go through inspection. And that can be a problem. Then the state police look it over, and once the state and put their seal of approval on it.
And I looked at something that PennDOT has, and of course one of the things they want to know is if you're creating a custom-made vehicle, it can't be one that's already a vehicle. So I guess his problem is, if I reconstruct the 1940 whatever, 1945 Ford whatever or something, I can't register it as that unless I can get a VIN, I guess. But I don't completely understand it, but I guess that's was the rub I was looking at.
Yeah. Then he probably needs one part on it that has a part on it. Then you go after a reconstructed title. He won't need a title. I could never understand people selling titles because that's about as illegal as you can get, in my estimation.
So basically, he's got to find a part. Now, I did, and the other caller said that you could buy a part that might have a good title to go with it, and just transfer the title and the part, which would be the last portion of the car, I guess, that's in existence.
Right. You just want to make sure that wasn't cut down and you're buying the part off of a stolen car that somebody chopped.
Yeah, see, that's the dilemma, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to watch. But anyway, I think I would talk to the state or talk to some of these guys that put together kit cars and stuff like that.
All right, thanks.
Uh-huh.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Be blessed. Bye-bye.
Bye. Ah, there we go. See, we're getting some more help here. Howard, you're on the air. Howard.
Hello,
Howard.
Hi, my adopted father's a police chief. He's holding all my money, and I'm 25, and I don't live with him anymore. I mean, is there any advice that I could do to get, my mail that doesn't get opened anymore and all my money back?
Yeah, you probably need to come see a lawyer, and we can try to entangle that. But you may have a civil suit for returning your money. And as for your mail, I think you should be able to get that forwarded wherever you're at, right?
Right, but he opens all of it, every bit of it.
Well, you just got to we got to stop having it go there, and change your address, and you can do that right at the Postal Service.
Okay.
So
what about all my military money that he has in a separate account that he will not let me touch?
Well, if you're an adult and you're not been declared incompetent, then it's your money.
Okay.
All right?
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, go see a lawyer. 540-0580. Barb, you're on the air with Carl Rominger. Hey, Barb.
Hey, Carl. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for holding.
Thanks. I work for a human services organization in Pennsylvania, and we support people with disabilities in their own homes. My question is about the hours.
Mm-hmm.
A typical shift would be that I would go in at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday morning, and I would leave on a Friday at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Now, my timesheet would be from 8 o'clock Wednesday morning till midnight on Wednesday,
mm-hmm.
and then 8 o'clock on Thursday morning to midnight on Thursday, and then Friday 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, not being paid for sleep time.
Okay.
And although I'm required to be there.
I'm running out of time, but I can tell you I've answered this once before. They don't have to pay for sleep time if you're legitimately there sleeping.
Okay. Okay.
All right?
All right. Thank you, Carl.
All right, guys, I'll see you next week. In the meantime, go to RomingerLaw.com, ROMINGER law.com, or our phone number is 241-6070, 241-6070. I'll see you here live next week.